Hello and welcome to Motion RC. You don't see my face today because today we're all about working on this tank. So what I'm going to be showing you in this video is how to take Tamiya epoxy putty and make some custom welds on here. And then we're going to also take the Tamiya basic type putty, mix it up and put it on the side of the armor to give it that textured look like a real armor plate would have. These big cast holes actually had a texturing to them. They wouldn't have been smooth. Now all I've done beforehand, as you can see, is sand where I had the stickers originally for the kit off. So I had the German cross here and I had the numbers here. And we've just gone on ahead and sanded that off and got it cleaned up to get it ready for us to put the putty on. The other thing I did is just take a little bit of damp cloth with some soapy water and wash the entire surface to make sure that the model was clean before we go into the modeling. So the first thing we're going to do is lay down some weld beads. You can see they're actually pretty good on the kit out of the box, but we can make them just a little bit better. So let's go over what we're going to use to actually do that. So this is my first tool we're going to use to do this. Now this is a custom made little thing. All it is a toothpick, and this is a piece of a Coke can. I cut the Coke can out and wrapped it around the stick, then sanded it to get a nice round shape, kind of like a U. And this is what we're going to use to actually emboss the putty with our weld marks. And we're going to sit there and just poke at it to make our weld beads. The next piece of that process is going to be our two-part epoxy putty. This mixes up by taking the two sticks and twirling them together till you get the green looking thing. And we're going to roll this into some little noodles, and we're going to push those into the seams. Then going back with our tool, we're going to push them down. Like I said, for the next part of the series, we're going to need the Tamiya basic modeling putty. We're going to also use Tamiya thin set cement to mix together with this to make a slurry. Now if you can, an old pickle jar lid or jelly jar is the perfect thing to mix this stuff up in. You can see where I've used it before. And this is just a nice metal plate that won't get eaten through by this stuff. Until you mix these two pieces together, they will stay nice and soft and sticky. So we only want to work with a little bit at a time as we're working. So we'll cut off about an even part of this and an even part of this one, like so. Then we're going to set these aside in separate pieces. Then we take the two pieces, put them together, and start twisting them together and mixing it. We want this stuff to get all mixed up. Then once we get that, we're going to start rolling this into a noodle. We want a nice, thin little noodle when we get done. You could take a piece of plastic at this part, set it on top of it, roll it back and forth, but I like being able to see what I'm doing, so I do it with my fingers. You want to get it as even as you can in a nice long noodle. That's the length of the piece we're trying to fill. Now that we have our noodle made up, we need to lay it inside the pre-existing welds that we're going to cover. Try and get this in there to the best of your abilities. Now, the good news is we are doing a World War II tank. These were all done by hand. The welds weren't perfect, so if yours aren't perfect, it's okay. You're going to take your little custom tool and you're going to start pressing it inwards and upwards to make the weld look like a real weld, like they've stacked the dimes on top of each other. Work your way down until you have the entire section done. If you run out of stuff, just make another noodle, add it in there, and keep going. It's better if you can do it as one continuous noodle, but if you break it and you need to add it in there, it's okay. Remember, your first couple times doing this, you're not going to get it perfect. As you can see here, I actually had some mistakes in mine also, but it's okay. You just go with the flow on this, and the modeling process will continue. Next, I decided to go on and put another weld line right beside this one at the front section of this. This may not be scale, but it looked cool to my eye, and that's kind of what I'm going for on this. If you want to be exact, you'll need to look at reference photos on these, but sometimes it's fun to just kind of model along and go with how it feels good. Now, the next part of what I did is took my modeling knife, and what you can see is they've already pre-modeled this in here. It's called a flame cut, where they're cutting these big pieces of steel. Something you can do to make this a little more exaggerated and really stand out on the model is take a X-Acto knife and just go on and score that a whole bunch of times across it. It'll kind of eat up the surface, and once you've done that, take some of your Tamiya thin cement and just run that over the top. It'll kind of melt them down, get them all stuck back together, and give it a really nice finish. Go around the whole top of this model and score it up and put that stuff on there, and it's going to make it look just that extra bit of detail to it. I also went on ahead and added weld beads around one of the hatches and one of the little hatches on the side of the turret, just to add a little more detail to the model. For the next step in the process, we're going to begin stippling the side armor. To do this, we need to take our Tamiya modeling putty, and we're going to take that and put it in our little lid that we showed you at the beginning. Then we're going to take some of the Tamiya extra thin cement and mix a little bit of that into our slurry. Now, if you have one of these little pipettes to suck up the fluid with, it really makes it a little easier. Once you've got that to a nice kind of gooey consistency, a little bit less than toothpaste, you want it a little bit of runny, you're going to start to stipple this onto the side of the model using an old brush. You will ruin whatever brush you use, so don't use a good one for this. And there's not really much you can do wrong here. You want to just tap it on the side and get a good texture going. It can be a little gnarly looking. Don't worry about that. After it dries, we're going to buff it off a little bit. Go around to any of the large plates of steel on the model that would have been cast, and you're going to just stipple this on. Now, the top of the Tigers are normally smooth, so all I'm going to focus on is the sides. You wouldn't want to do the box on the back of the Tiger either, because it was made out of a smaller piece of metal. Now, around the gun barrel, this is a really thick piece of armor. You definitely want to make sure you stipple that. After you have all the pieces stippled that you wanted to do, let the model set. You need to let it set for like 2 hours. Get that putty nice and hard and firm, and then you're going to take a very light, coarse sandpaper. I'm using 200 grit that I use on most of my models. And we're going to lightly buff the surface with this. We don't want to sand it smooth. We just want to buff off some of the excess high points. This is just going to level the surface a little bit and make it ready for paint. So there you have it. Our German Tiger's top turret is now complete. What we've done in this has really made our model stand out from the rest and is a great addition to any of the Heng Long tanks in our lineup if you want to go above and beyond. You know, some guys don't just enjoy driving these tanks, they enjoy the customization and scale modeling side of this hobby. If you're one of those guys that likes building model tanks and you feel like tackling a little bit bigger project, I highly recommend picking up one of these tanks. It's a lot of fun, and when you get done, you have a model you can actually drive around and enjoy. Well guys, as always, whether it's air, land, or sea, you can get it right here at Motion RC, and until the next time, we'll see you in the next video. Bye.